met the Oda King, I was like, oh shit, it's
Yeah.
the Oda King.
Yeah, I think Blue Blaze is definitely, I'm enjoying it. So yeah, we're back. We're finally back.
This show exists?
Geeknights is back after a long hiatus.
How long is it going to be back for?
Let's do this. Well, I'm going to Australia in like a couple weeks, and then
So 4 shows.
show
number 1, here we go.
guys, November is when Geeknights is coming back on its completely regular, unchanging schedule for a while.
Oh, that's weird. Geeknight's birthday is Halloween.
Ah, funny about that.
Yeah.
Except on the actual birthday, I will literally be in Australia, where they don't celebrate Halloween.
They don't celebrate Halloween in Australia?
As far as I can tell, they don't.
What?
Scott, most of the world does not celebrate Halloween.
You need to bring Halloween to the people down under.
Yeah, well, we brought indie RPGs.
I'll send you some candy corn.
Scott, they're not going to let me bring poison over the border.
They let you bring Vegemite back.
Oh, someone in the forum just posted. It was, I don't know if it was Vegemite or Marmite. They're both vile, so it doesn't matter. But basically, it's like Cheetah tries Vegemite. And the cheetah's like sitting there and licks the Vegemite. And then it like rears up back and back and back
goes
and
really
starts making
fast?
this face like, oh my God, like it wants to kill you. It is unhappy about that Vegemite or Marmite or Starite.
Mite is not for cheetahs to eat. You know what cheetahs eat?
People,
Yes.
antelopes.
Rims. And Rims cannot run away from a cheetah because a cheetah is literally the fastest. It's pretty
yeah.
much just like cheetah, and the only way to get faster than a cheetah is jet engine. Not even bicycle will help you.
Are there some flying things that can go faster? I mean, a diving hawk. Ah!
Yeah, but the horizontal speed.
So you're focused on horizontal speed. That's your criteria.
I mean, I can fall really fucking fast too.
Yeah.
I'll just take the elevator up the Empire State Building and jump off. I'll be probably going faster than a cheetah goes sideways.
It's good to be back doing the show.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's anime day. I kind of wish, you'd think whenever we have a sort of hiatus like this or a sabbatical that I go on for work, we usually build up a whole bunch of shows we can do, but we pretty much mostly built up Tuesday shows.
It was game season.
We went to a PAX, and we haven't done a lot of shows since then. We've got, like 3 games we can review?
Oh, I guess so, yeah.
Which that's 3 shows
Some of
right
them
there.
are tiny games like Sushi Go.
Yeah, I think we could do one show of I almost said Euphoria, Splendor, and Sushi Go. And we could do a separate. I think Pendante needs a whole show. Pendante. Spoilers, guys. That's a game that's more fun than it
Spoilers.
has any.
Floosh is going to be the joke of that episode.
Flooshes are not jokes, and I have a floosh right now.
You do not have a floosh. Why are you calling me right now?
I love how that game
on the
basically
telephone.
escalated to this point of everyone has a floosh every hand, no matter what.
Yeah, all right, I hung up the phone.
Who was it?
My parents.
Your parents are calling.
Because you know what? The news, right? Tomorrow is
Tomorrow?
Rosh Hashanah. In fact,
yeah.
right now is
fuck,
Rosh.
yeah. God damn it. So, yeah, that means a bunch of my development team's not going to be in.
All right, so news number 1. Actually, tonight is Rosh Hashanah, which means by the time you hear this, it'll be Rosh Hashanah.
That explains why a bunch
Rosh
of meeting
Hashanah
notices...
is not the correct way to pronounce Rosh Hashanah. I am well aware of this.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you 2 things. Number 1, even if you're not Jewish,
Well,
you should celebrate.
You have told this story on Geeknights before in like 2007.
Did I?
I think so.
Anyway, I'll tell it again because I'm pretty sure no one who listened to Geeknights in 2007 is listening now or remembers.
I'm just getting this out here so the next time I repeat an old story, you can say nothing.
Anyway, so story number 1. Even if you're not Jewish in any way, shape, or form, if you're like some goyim from Florida, Florida has Jews, some goyim from Mississippi, you should celebrate Rosh Hashanah because you get to eat awesome bread dipped in honey. Just take some apples and some honey, which you can definitely get at your grocery store, no matter how un-Jewish a place you live in, right? And cut the apple up, put it in the honey, and then eat it and go, fuck yeah. So, story number 2. When you're in high school at the Jewish youth group, one of the advisors of the youth group, his brother or uncle or something, I think it was his uncle, came to talk to us, and he was a Vietnam veteran, the kind that hadn't gone crazy, but still saw real Vietnam.
And he had an onion on his belt.
He didn't have an onion on his belt. He wasn't that old. He was like in 50s, 60s. He was not an old person. He wasn't damaged in any way, but he saw some shit. He saw all the shit. And he told us a story about how he was Jew, one of the few Jews in Vietnam. and he got leave for Rosh Hashanah. And while he was on leave, an MP stopped him and was like, hey, where are your papers? Are you AWOL? What's going on here? So he handed him the papers. And the MP said, what's this Rosh Hashanah business? Because if you're an MP who's not Jewish and knows nothing about Jewishness in Vietnam, and someone has a leave paper that says I'm allowed to not be shooting people or getting killed right now, and it says Rosh Hashanah on it, that seems like a load of bullshit, or almost so much bullshit it couldn't possibly be fake, because who would be dumb enough to write something so fake on the fake paper? So now,
my counterexample
because
to you
of
is
that story, I always say
McLovin.
Rosh Hashanah, even though it's Rosh Hashanah.
Yep. Well, you have a similar story about solda. Solda.
Oh, yeah, the Australian guy who
Solda.
taught me how to solda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solda on Rosh Hashanah.
No, that is
Is
not
it
really a good Rosh Hashanah
Attack on
activity.
Titan.
It's Titan.
Wow.
Hanging out in the sun too long, getting a Titan.
So, kind of an aside, but if you ever go to Turkey, one thing you might like, if you're a fan of Rosh Hashanah food, is Turkish breakfast.
What's Turkish breakfast?
proper
Because we know
Turkish-
what Australian breakfast is.
Nothing. So, a Turkish breakfast, a traditional one, is you just kind of say, I would like breakfast. And what they do is they bring you a bunch of little plates. They usually have like 3 kinds of jam.
How come the U.S. is the only country that does the one big plate instead of a lot of... It seems like every other country on Earth does a lot of little plates, except the U.S., which does one big plate.
Because we're stupid.
I'd rather have a lot of different things to eat than just
Why do you
a
think-
whole lot of one thing.
Why do you think TAP is
Unless
getting,
that one thing is ice cream. Then
Tapis
bring the one
Fusion.
big plate.
Tapis Fusion is getting increasingly popular, I think, because many people are like me. And if I look at a menu, what I actually want at any restaurant
Is
is a little
everything?
bit of everything.
Right,
on
now
the
here's the
menu.
other thing, right? If I'm at home, it's not reasonable to cook 100 different things and eat a tiny bit of each one. So if I I can easily at home cook a whole lot of one thing. So if I go to a restaurant, I would very much like to pay money for the opposite of what I can do at home, which
Basically, you want the Lena Inverse option.
is... Yes.
I still someday think we need to go to Salt and Fat with enough people to literally say we would like one of everything.
So Michelin just released the, not Michelin star list, I think this next week, but the gourmand something list, which is like the almost one Michelin star list.
And yeah, the
it has
almost-
to be places that cost like $40 or less. Like you can eat for real there for less than $40. It can't be an expensive place.
Meaning these might be the highest quality to dollar ratio you can
Right.
get.
Pretty much all the places we eat were on the list. Salt and Fat made the list for the 4th year.
Of course.
Aloe Bar's on the list.
Ah.
Le Cole's on the list.
Oh my God.
All the places in New York that we eat, because we don't eat at the places that cost Michelin star, are on this list. So it shows that we know where to eat.
Yep. The only place I've ever seen a higher average restaurant quality is Providence, but that's unfair because Providence is tiny. It's really easy to have all great restaurants if you only have like 15 restaurants.
It was just funny to see, like, oh, I like the same restaurants these guys job it is to like restaurants like.
You know,
and
it's
I didn't
funny.
even read this list before now.
Because Emily was like, we always eat at the same 5 places for brunch every
Yeah,
weekend.
well, if they're on this list, it means they're affordable and amazing.
Yeah.
To get better, we would have to go to expensive.
So-
and to pay less, we would get worse.
So what Emily said was, we always eat at the same
we can
5
just eat it
stupid
up.
places.
What we need to do is eat at other places on this list that we don't
Yeah.
go to yet.
So she went and found a list of the best brunches in New York City, just to see where's somewhere else we should go. And you know what?
Half the list was places you already went.
Yes, 4 of the places were places that we walk to almost every week, and the only places that we haven't eaten at are in furthest Brooklyn.
Yeah, there's a lot of faraway places we can go to.
Yeah, but you know what? Anyway, so I had some news because this went right.
Let's actually do news now.
All right, actually news. So we can't blow our whole
My
opening bit.
actual news is today is Wednesday, September 24th. Probably way after you hear this. Way before you hear this, it will have already happened. The return of the greatest animation on U.S. television. South Park.
I would say that Adventure Time is actually the greatest for all factors, but South Park is easily second.
I don't know. It depends. That's really close right there.
I would not say that if it weren't for the fact that
That's
Adventure
basically
Time.
a tie game.
Adventure Time's been going for a long goddamn time.
South Park has been going for even longer.
and they both have the
vastly
same thing.
longer.
But how many episodes?
Good question.
The thing is-
but the episodes of South Park are full episodes.
Well, here's what I'll say. both the shows have the quality that no other
Let's
animated
not do
show.
what's better, South Park or Adventure Time.
No other
'cause
animated
that's a
show in
losing battle.
history
That's
has
a
done
battle
this.
no one wins.
It is run long enough to be past the point of like it's good because it's novel, and the average quality of episodes has only gone up as time has gone on with no deviations whatsoever.
Anyway, there's a preview for tonight's new episode of South Park after this incredibly long hiatus, and in that preview, they are taking full advantage of the fact that the Washington football team has lost its trademark. And it was quite epically amazing, perfect. South Park as usual.
You know, all that reminded me of is back of the student athletes.
Yeah, I'm liking when they make episodes that say things that I already believe.
Yep. And you know what? South Park is actually one of my favorite shows ever. And you should all be watching it. If you've never watched South Park, what's wrong with you?
I don't know.
Man, and think about it. That show started, it had like 3 episodes of it's just kids swearing. And I was already sold on that. And then it got good. So, in very brief news, if you're a fan of Hatsune Miku, you know, there's a lot of nerdy stuff going on.
I'm not going to explain what that is right now.
Yeah.
You know,
the
Super Art Fight rejected Hatsune Miku from the Wheel of Death because they were like, what the fuck is that?
What? What? Is this another situation like James Rolfe and his friend where it's like, wow, you are really pro in like this one arena of the world and you don't know about other parts of the world? It's like, really, guys?
That, I think, is the one thing that makes Geeknights maybe worth listening to in some far-fetched, is that we are so great. We know about so many things. Aren't we great?
Yeah,
we
you know
don't
what I would say?
We aren't experts in just one area. We know about so many geeky things.
You know what the listener would say?
There is no area of geekery we know nothing about.
What the listener would say is that we are wide but shallow.
Listen, even though we are somewhat shallow, I know less about, you know,
pro wrestling than a pro wrestling
That's a good example
nerd. Because there is a small but dedicated cadre of listener.
There are many listeners who are big into pro wrestling, and I know less about it than any of them. But I know more about it than I'm well above average in my knowledge, despite not having watched any of it since middle school.
I've been watching bits and pieces again just because people have been sending me links.
Mostly just because I osmose so much information from those people tweeting and such. And also reading comic books about Andre the Giant.
There's like, oh yeah.
It's pretty good. Anyway.
So yeah, Hatsune, all this stuff with the Comic-Con is happening. So Hatsune Miku is going to be doing a concert in New York at the Hammerstein Ballroom, October 17th and 18th.
I guess that's because the Roseland Ballroom no longer exists. You only have one option now.
Yeah. So if you ever wanted to see one of those virtual idol,
watch it on YouTube. I see no reason to actually go.
You can go in person if you just want to experience Sharon Apple before she turns against us.
I have experienced it via YouTube. But I am going to go more interesting as part of the Miku Expo. They're having an art exhibit in New York City that I'm definitely going to go to because it'll probably just take like a half hour or whatever.
Yeah, and that's
totally
October 9th through 19th.
And it's free entry.
Yeah.
It's called Universal Positivity, which I think is the most concise possible way to sum up what a virtual idol is all about.
Oh, so before when you were like, yeah, people, they didn't know Hatsune Miku was. Normally, when video games come up in the course of like my discussions at these conferences or anywhere outside of like super nerdery.
So you're discussing nerdery at a finance place.
Yes, anywhere. I will say the phrase, oh, they make visual novels. To which the expected response is, what's a visual novel? Cueing me explaining what a visual novel is.
Yes.
In Singapore,
there was a nerd there.
Everybody knew what these were. Because when I said, oh, they make visual novels, the response was, oh, you mean Japanese fuck games?
Yes. That is exactly what they're making.
I was taken aback because I had already queued up the explanation of what a visual novel is, and I'd never in my life, in that context, expected someone to not only know what a visual novel was, but to so succinctly define it.
That is exactly what they're making. 100%.
So anyway, things of the day. So this video was one of those things where, when you watch a bunch of videos of one kind, like YouTube starts to recommend videos and eventually like you'll see videos popping up all the time till eventually you watch them. So this video popped up and it looked like some sort of animation and it was pretty good. The next day, our friend Judith tweeted about it. So I think she was watching the same videos I was watching. We both got recommended the same animation. Basically, this person is making it's like a student film almost, but I think it's just for fun. And they're making an animation to a song, and this is like the work in progress, so it's half animated and half kind of sketched out. And just it's super high quality and it's pretty good, and you should check it out.
Talented person is making videos on the internet. News at 11.
Yep. But both YouTube and a person I know told me to watch this video in the span of about 20 hours.
So that definitely, when you see that's the rule, right? When
Yeah.
something appears so often, it means you gotta check it out. I'm probably gonna check it out when I get home.
It's like you know how to get me to read a book? Get a bunch of people I know to mention that book offhandedly,
Separately.
and
it helps if they come from different circles. Like if a person at work mentions it, and then a person at home, and then a person in your family, it's like, oh, wow.
Yup. It's like when Grandpa also mentions the Hatsune Miku concert.
Yep. So, what is my thing of the day? I remember now.
Oh, you remember?
I do remember. So, it is getting cold, which means it is time again for baking things.
Oh.
So, I usually make Toll House cookie recipe. And you might think that's lame. That's the most generic cookie recipe from the back of the bag. And that is correct. But do you know why? It's the most delicious cookie. That's why it's on the back of the bag. You can't do better. Or maybe you can.
Uh-oh. What'd you do?
They found, I don't know if they found, but
Which they? Toll House?
I don't know. It was posted on the internet. The original Toll House cookie recipe from the Toll House restaurant a zillion years ago.
Ah.
Well, not really a zillion years ago. Cookies are actually they're newer than you think. At least chocolate chip cookies are. So the original recipe is slightly different. Also, the cookies are way small, which means they're hard, not like all soft and gooey, chewy and whatnot. So I'm going to try to make the original Toll House cookie recipe as it was in the Toll House restaurant.
Huh. You know, if from the era I'm thinking, then wouldn't the recipe just be the same, but it's lard instead of butter?
Listen, it's not that old, right? Toll House cookies are like
Scott,
earlier 20th century.
Yeah, and I'm saying, look at cookbooks. Lard was most cooking until about the late 70s.
I forget the person who made the desserts at the Toll House restaurant, but actually Toll House restaurant was a way big deal. Like it was one of the few places that had like a separate dessert menu. Like it maybe even invented it.
Cookies have their origins in 7th century Persia.
Yes, there were plenty of cookies.
Modern
before.
cookies came to America in the 17th century.
Yes, but the chocolate chip cookie specifically was an invention of the Toll House restaurant. Also, did you know a brownie is a cookie? It's a bar cookie.
Yeah, I just call it a bar, but I mean, Hamantaschens are considered cookies.
Yeah, plenty of things are cookies. But Toll House, the chocolate chip cookie is what we're talking about.
Could a cookie also be a cake? Or a pie?
No.
No?
No.
No?
No.
Search for the word pie. Oh, moon pie.
You could make a cookie pie. You can make a pie out of cookies, or you could even make a cake-flavored cookie, or a cookie cake. You can have an ice cream cake also.
So
is that an ice cream or a cake?
A relation to moon pie called a scooter pie is considered a cookie. Oh, called a Malamar.
Yeah.
That's a cookie.
That's what that is, yeah. I would eat Malamars every day. Thankfully, they're $5 a box, so I don't.
So yeah, in the meta moment, the book club book is still a canonical for Leibowitz. Did you get the spaceships?
I finished part 2, and I have to read Spaceship part 3, and then I'll be done.
So no status update.
I'm gonna read Spaceship part 3.
Do you know what Green Star is?
I'm gonna read it this weekend.
Is it related to Laplace's
box?
box?
We'll do the episode next week because I'll finish it this weekend because
I
have literally nothing else to do.
I gotta read that book again because I barely remember it at this point. So I'm reading, of all things, I'm not gonna make the book club book because I read every.
It's not book club book worthy. Then why are you reading it?
Because I had to read a bunch of books while I was waiting for you to finish the book club.
Sure.
I should every book club should be one of these. So I'll be so far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm reading our Ian M. Banks. One of his earliest
not culture
works,
book?
if not the first. Yeah, one of his. It's called the Wasp Factory.
Okay.
All I knew about this book was that it was disturbing. I was told that
more disturbing than ultra porn.
Well, so I was told that this book was disturbing and quote not like his other works. Oh, it was in fact his first novel. Mm. Yeah, it's basically about a kid who's a fucking serial killer and his brother who I think is also a serial killer and their dad who's oblivious. And That's what I got out of the first chapter.
Okay.
So we'll see where this goes. It's just interesting that that's the first book of someone who then wrote all the culture books.
Other meta type things. Rim's going to PAX Australia.
I will be at PAX Australia presenting not one, but 2 lectures on
Whoa,
Sunday.
Shows how desperate PAX Australia
On
is.
Sunday, how to win every game.
Oh, yeah.
But it'll be the solo version, so...
Sad.
Yeah. And on Saturday, losing. I just called it losing.
Yeah, because you had to do a second panel. That's definitely losing.
Well, it's based vaguely on a panel we did a long, long time ago called "Losing Should Be Fun." That we ran like 3 times, and we even ran a version of it at like Nerd Night at a club in New York years ago. But that was back before we videoed our panels, so we have no like video of this ever. Yep. So I'm updating the panel to modern times.
All right, too much info. Meta moment's got to be a moment, not a meta month.
All right.
Book club book, PAX is
What are you
nice to
wasting time
mention,
for?
and you should find us on the internet because we're all over the internet. All the places on the internet, we are there. We even have an old-fashioned email newsletter that I should send out again soon.
Yes, and
once I figure out what to write in it.
Both the panels that we were responsible for at PAX Prime are on YouTube.
Whoa.
You can just watch them. That was probably the fastest turnaround ever.
Okay.
So share that shit. Less than 1,000 people have watched one of them.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Gundam UC. We're a little late to the party on this one.
Well, okay, so I'm intentionally late to the parties. This is, for those of you who don't know, Gundam UC is
ended its run in 2009.
It's an OAV.
Oh, no, that's the novel. I'm looking at the wrong page.
Yes.
It ended recently.
Yes, it's an OAV, 7 episodes. Each episode's like an hour-ish. So I didn't watch any of it until all 7 episodes were done, which was quite recently. So I finally, it made it, once it finished its last episode, it entered the queue, and now it's sort of actually bumped up to the front of the queue. So now is the time to watch it. I've only watched 2 episodes so
I've
far.
watched 3.5.
Okay.
So I've seen enough. So we'll review this. No real spoilers, obviously.
Well, I can't spoil anything if I've only seen like 2 episodes of it.
So I will say this. This show is Gundam-y.
Yeah, so that's the thing that's constantly in my mind.
In fact, you know what? This is the first show we have ever reviewed on Geeknights that is openly pornographic. This is pornography for people who are really into Gundam.
That's exactly the same thing. As I'm watching this, I'm like, wow, this is so great because I know everything that is happening. And I'm like, imagine if someone, it's like this one scene I remember where they meet the guy who is probably Char, but
oh my God, that
not.
scene where he's like, can you just take your mask off?
He's like, all right, I don't really need
what's
it.
behind your mask? You have like a fucking scar or something? What's the deal? And then the other guy in the room's like, oh, and that would be like the big moment in an old Gundam. And he's just like, yeah, whatever. He just takes his mask off. He's got his little...
Char takes mask off all the time.
Yeah.
But he's like, yes, this room is a recreation of Alboa Q, whatever. And it's like, if you don't know what the fuck Alboa Q is, you're probably just going to sleep right now. Because that's like a 5-minute scene of sitting in a fancy room talking.
So it's interesting because I actually have not seen as much Gundam as you.
But, so did you know the things that they were talking about, like the 1 Year War and things like that?
I would say that I knew about half of the references.
Okay,
in general.
So I'm going to spend 5 minutes here to give you Gundam 101 because you're going to need it to understand anything else we say. So Gundam UC. UC stands for Universal Century. In Gundam, much like, say, Marvel Comics, there's a bunch of different Marvel universes, right? There's the Marvel Universe, which is like the one, but then there's like Ultimate Marvel and the cinematic universe where the movies take place, and all these other universes, but they're all Marvel, right? So Gundam is the same way. In Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny, that's Cosmic Era. Gundam G Gundam, some bullshit.
Yep.
Gundam Wing, that's some other bullshit, right? The main Gundam, the Gundam that counts, is Universal Century. So what Universal Century is basically, right now in the real human world, we had BC, then we had AD, Anno Domini, then they have UC. The entire Earth has one government, and we have colonies in space. It's a new era of humanity. It's now UC1. So the first Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam, takes place in 78, Universal Century year 78, the 78th year after UC1, right? So Gundam UC, Gundam Unicorn, takes place, I think, in like 90-something, or maybe 80 something. It's basically
It's been it's just on the cusp of 100 years after UC
right.
began.
It's 2 or 3 years after.
As Fake Char comments on constantly.
Yes. So basically, the quote end up until the release of Gundam Unicorn, the quote unquote end of UC Gundam as a property was Char's counterattack. So this is 2 or 3 years after Char's counterattack. Interestingly enough, relating to an old Geeknights episode, this is decades before Gundam F91.
Oh.
Yes.
That actually makes some things make more sense.
Gundam F91 takes place decades after Gundam Unicorn.
Decades after humans expressed any form of emotion.
Yes. But so
Except when dads died.
effectively Gundam Unicorn is like aftermath of, it's a couple years after Char's counterattack. What's going on in Gundam Land? For all you Gundam nerds, we're going to spend half the time talking about the history of Gundam.
Not actually talking about it, though.
Referring to it, expecting you to already know it.
All this does, the thing is, it doesn't refer to this stuff in any way that is relevant to what is actually going on, except perhaps as allegory.
Right, that's the thing, is it's Gundam Unicorn is not about the events of Gundam Unicorn. It's about these events only have meaning in relation to the things that happened in, quote, real Gundam. Right, which is Gundam and Zeta Gundam and Char's counterattack.
Yep. Though I would argue that
you only care about you can only care about these things in their relation to those other things because you care about the past and you, right? And this is it's like I don't care about who's this kid, who's the main character.
We'll get to Belanges.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about Belanges, right? But I do give a fuck about like
Char.
White Base and Bright Noah and Char and Amuro, who's probably dead. Or is, at the end of Char's counterattack, him and Amuro are effectively dead, as far as you can tell.
Well.
So, yeah, well.
Well, notice his evasive answer of, are you Char? And he's like,
it doesn't matter if I'm Char. But then notice earlier, he's like, aha, my opponent is the Gundam again.
Yep.
Oh, Gundam, you are still my opponent.
Several of the references do not actually relate in a meaningful way to what's going on now. It'd be like if I said proper nouns from World War I periodically in conversations during World War II, but didn't refer to them in context or relation to what was happening now, but I referred to them so the nerd would go, oh my god, he's talking about this.
All right, so let's actually talk about Gundam Unicorn.
So this show is breathtaking. The animation is amazing.
So
it is beautiful.
I'm watching this in my surround sound, and just like when the Gundam just flies by, or any mobile suit flies by, it's like you're watching Star Wars in a fucking movie theater. And that's the thing, because it's an OAV, where you watch like a TV Gundam, it's like pew, 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 pew. And when you watch this, it's like,
No, when the first Itano circus that happens pretty early on.
Whoa, episode 2 where he brings it out with the gun, and the gun grazes the one dude's mobile suit and just explodes.
Yep.
Like the way they animate the gun firing and the sound, it's
that
like
gun.
You just feel how ridiculously strong the rifle, the UC gun, the Unicorn Gundam has.
Because it makes that noise like, and then like you see the huge.
Everyone else is like pew 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 pew.
Granted, he used a lot of that ammo, and he's the only one.
He had 2 more packs on the back.
Yes, but he's the only one with that special magic Gundam that they stole. So how the fuck is he gonna rearm that thing?
That's a good question.
Yeah, you know what? That's starting to bother me a lot already.
That didn't bother me right away, but
well, here's why it bothers me. So before I get into not the negatives, but
he flew it from the place to the other place. He didn't bring the equipment with him.
Yeah, so
where did they get it? Where did that Federation ship get that equipment from?
If there is not either another person like another Gundam that uses that gun because they just have ammo for it.
How did it get there?
Yeah, maybe that's just a common gun. It's just
not
powerful.
No.
So if it's a special gun and they don't make an issue of his ammo, I'm gonna be really disappointed in this show.
Yeah, Gundam is usually, for being fictional, right, in terms of its science, not being hard sci-fi, it's always incredibly consistent.
Yeah,
right?
that's what's bothering me.
Because think about it, right? So you might, the first question you might have, if you were one of those people who's like, well, why are they doing this? It makes no sense. And you're like a military fanboy. You're watching Gundam. The first question you're going to ask is, they're in outer space. They have like capital ships that can just fire ridiculous weapons. Why would you fly around? Why is it a good idea to fly around in a robot with arms and legs and guns? That makes no military strategic sense whatsoever.
Yep.
And they explain it. That's why they're always talking about fucking Minovsky particles.
Yeah.
Minovsky particles are basically the made-up science excuse for why the people are fighting war using Gundam, mobile suit technology. Is that basically they discovered Minovsky particles, and they fuck up all radio communications and targeting systems. So basically, all those technologies are useless. So what happens is when ships enter a battle, they just fucking fill the battlefield with Minovsky particles like crazy, so no one else can use like a targeting system and just blow their brains out immediately with one shot, like say Star Trek dumbass battles.
Nah.
So you're pretty much forced to go into the battlefield with humans and incredibly maneuverable.
Or occasionally hyper mega particle cannons.
Right. It's like the only thing you can, the most effective weapon in a battlefield that's covered in these things is a Gundam. It's like for every kind of military fanboy question like that, they have an answer. If they fuck up something like, where did he get this gun from? That's pretty sad.
Well, that's it, because one thing I noticed, to compare this 288 and a different Gundam, like Gundam Seed, while it was a little more pulpy and less Gundam-y, the one thing it did is that it really paid attention to bridge discipline and like sequence of events in battles.
Well, I think the captain of the ship in Gundam Unicorn is sort of derpy.
But all the ships are like that.
You'll notice that, like, basically that lieutenant guy is really getting it done,
Scott,
interrogating
how
all
many
the people.
times do the kids get away, or the kid just like runs over and pilots the Gundam on his own? In every other Gundam, if a kid runs over and tries to pilot a Gundam, there's the long drawn out drama scene where he's like, "You've got to launch me," and they're like, "No, we're not going to launch you. Security procedure, whatever." And in this, they just like look and they're like, "Oh my God, he's in the Gundam. How did that happen?" Like the bridge discipline is non-existent, and the show will pause the action to have lengthy dialogues far beyond what other Gundams did.
Yeah. Well, I think also more so than other Gundams, the Unicorn Gundam itself is more magical than other Gundams are.
Yep. Why is
Right.
it better? Because of love and psychics, and I guess it's programmed.
New types. It's new type power.
It's programmed to kill new types because it was made by the Federation.
Right? It's like the special mode is called NTD. That definitely stands for like new type
Destroyer.
detected or something
Yeah.
like that.
It detects
new type something.
Well, it detects a new type, and then it only goes into hyper mega fuck you up mode if it's fighting a new type, because it's designed to genocide the new types.
Is it?
Maybe.
Maybe.
But then they argue that that's just a cover and there's a better program under there. Laplace's box or whatever, that crap.
Yeah, so that's the main plot is that there's a thing called Laplace's box.
But no one knows what it is.
No one knows what it is, but the Unicorn Gundam is the key, supposedly, but they don't know what it is or how to open it.
All they know is that it
And-
could literally destroy the Federation government.
Yes, which would be very happy for the Zion, the Xeon people. The Zion.
Your slip up there covered one of the things I was going to bring up.
Yes. These space people, right, would be very happy if they got Laplace's box and destroyed the Federation. The Earth people would not be so happy.
Yeah, the Earth people in every Gundam, though, if you have to pick a side, I mean, the Earth people are usually the badder guys.
Well, so usually the way a Gundam plays out is you've unified the Earth, but now there are people in space, and the space people are upset.
The Spacenoids.
Right, because why are Earth people have any say over what happens in space? They don't know what it's like out in space. Our lives are completely different from theirs. They're all sitting on their Earth, and we're all sitting here in our space stations, right? So the space noids like, we don't want Earth ruling us. We want to rule ourselves, right? We don't,
And then Earth's like, no, and they usually commit some atrocity or hold
So
it back
usually
or
the
something.
good guys are fighting on the Earth side, right, in a ship, and the bad guys are fighting on the Xeon side in space, but
Well, because the bad
people-
guys
the people-
would be good
right,
guys,
but really-
except that then they commit some crazy terrorist act that starts a season.
But there is never any like clear line between good guys and bad guys. The guys in charge of the Federation are evil. The people in charge of Xeon, the original people in charge of Xeon, were good, but now the Zabi family runs the show, and then that becomes evil.
Yep,
That's like the
but-
beginning of Gundam.
But now we got the princess of Zabi,
and Char is
who's
completely
good.
evil. He's sort of like a Magneto kind of character where,
Yes, Magneto, I am not evil. Come join the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Yeah, he's sort of that kind of guy where it's like he means well and his method is bad, which is usually killing people and
Yeah,
whatnot, right?
but at the same time, like in different Gundams or throughout the history, a lot of times, like, wow, the new types commit some horrible atrocity. But
Like
you can,
destroying a whole... Because they basically use terrorism because they don't have the giant army that, the Federation has.
Yep.
So they'll be like, well, we're going to do a colony drop and drop an empty colony on the Earth. Or
Yep.
we're going to destroy a whole space colony. Boom. Terrorism.
So
And that's why they're the bad guys.
this
nominally.
is Gundam porn, but it's Gundam porn in the sense that the visuals are everything everyone ever wanted out of anything they would see with Gundam. And the proper nouns come like a machine gun. Blah, blah, blah. Full frontal Laplace's frontal red comet.
Yeah. So I think it's really good, but I'm a person who knows Gundam and has seen all of original Gundam and all of Zeta Gundam and is reading the Gundam origin manga and has built more than one Gundam and knows a lot about Gundam.
So I have never seen Zeta Gundam. That's like that's pretty much the biggest hole in my Gundaming.
Zeta Gundam's pretty important.
Yeah, I know. Did you still have those bullshit broken subtitle DVD pack or whatever?
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah, I should just watch Z Gundam, I think.
So people don't know this. There's an official Gundam YouTube channel. You can watch many, if not most, Gundams on this YouTube channel in many languages for free legally, including Gundam Build Fighters, which is in my queue.
So let's talk about the show specifically, forgetting the proper noun porn. And even if you don't know what those proper nouns are,
We might end up using some of that.
it's fine because it works out kind of like the Prince of Nothing. How in the beginning there's all these proper nouns. I'm pretty sure you can gloss over all of them, and they just sound like historical context.
Yeah, you can follow the show, but I think you'll lose some of the. If not having seen any Gundam before,
you won't get why everyone flips out when they figure out who Audrey Byrne is.
You won't have like an emotional response to the things that they say, but you'll be able to follow the plot of this story easily. You just won't like have any sort of feeling that you're supposed to have when someone's like, "Oh, red comet."
Yeah, except my problem is that the characters in this show, their emotional reactions to things make zero sense. And it's like people just react to things randomly. Like suddenly people will react to something very strongly in a way that doesn't make any sense.
That is pretty much every Gundam, but yeah,
No,
more so in this one than others.
Like watch, another non like proper Gundam in Gundam Seed. Characters' emotional reactions to things made sense. People would escalate into like emotional outbursts or escalate or de-escalate to or from
Every episode
violence.
losing it a little bit more.
Yep. But in this one, like in the beginning, a kid is already like acting kind of weird. The main character, Belanges. And then he inexplicably sees Video Girl Eye falling out of the sky.
Well, it's not Video Girl
I know.
Eye. It's
I know.
It's Lacus Klein, at least as far as you're
It's
concerned.
Audrey Hepburn.
It's Lala Soon.
So he sees her and rushes to save her and then skips all of the emotional attachment building and immediately has a scene where he says, "Don't go. What do I have to do to make you need me? I'm obsessed with you."
It's the connection between new types.
Yeah.
They're new types. They feel a connection to each other.
But the way it's handled in the show, like if you know Gundam, you obviously know that he's a new type and she's a new type, and like this stuff kind
And
of
you know
makes
who
sense.
she is even before they reveal it.
But if you don't know all that stuff, and even if you do, the way they handle it, the character's reactions it's like he dials the volume up to 11 suddenly in the middle of a sentence.
That is true.
And the whole show is like that. It's like the people watching who know Gundam and the people who are making the dialogue and like the character stuff in the show, they're just kind of skipping all the beats in conversation to get to the emotional high point immediately so they can move on to the next scene.
Well, I only have 7 episodes.
Exactly. So as a result, like characters' reactions on a human level just make no goddamn sense. Like people will react in a deadpan fashion to things that should be big revelations, and people will react with yelling and soliloquy about what does it mean to be in war and what is the root of all violence to completely innocuous statements by people around them.
They also use they're basically using every shortcut in the book to like get characters in there and get you to know them and maybe supposed to care about them while giving them the minimum amount of screen time, right? So you've got the guy who's
like
basically
the special forces guys, the big Mohawk guy.
Okay, no, but I mean, you got the guy who's basically Mula Flaga, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they show a guy, he's got a mobile suit, and he has a little tiny biplane charm.
That
It's like,
they focus on every time
It's
he's
like-
on screen.
it's like, he's the ace pilot character who's basically taking that slot right there. That's the guy. That's
Yep.
him.
Well, we know what his fate is going to
And
be.
it's like, he fights in space, and he's clearly not at the badass new type level, but he's the top of the human level. There he is. He's the guy.
Yep.
And they communicate all that in a matter of seconds, and now they basically don't need to.
They only
Need to bring him out when they want to use him. They don't have to actually bring him out to develop him because
they only communicate
took
that
this
to you
shortcut.
if you've seen other Gundam.
I suppose.
Otherwise, as I think a person who had seen no Gundam before would just wonder why they keep showing this guy because it doesn't seem like he's doing anything.
Yeah, he really hasn't done anything. He has, other than fight in space a little
Yep.
bit.
He reacted to the Unicorn Gundam just going apeshit on everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is people like, it's Gundam, right?
Well, because the whole Gundam, that special program had all been shut down because of past drama.
Right. So it's like even in the scene where people are like, "Oh my God, it's Gundam." Well, it's like, what does it mean to? What's the difference between a Gundam and another mobile suit?
Now that's something
How do
the
they
show does
they
well.
know just by looking at it that one's Gundam and the other ones aren't?
I think the show does that part well, actually. Because if you've never seen Gundam, they're like, Gundam. And you're like, why is everyone flipping out? And then the Gundam starts fighting, and the kid who knows nothing about fighting basically wrecks the entire battlefield.
No. But how do the people? All right, so you see this? It's an awesome robot, but how they knew even before it started fighting? They just saw it and they're like, "It's Gundam." How do they know? And the reason that they know is because the horn split in half and made the two little yellow things, and that's how you know. And the face, when it transforms, the face changes.
I like how the face changes.
Into
That's just so dumb.
into Gundam shape, and it's like that's how they know it's Gundam because the Gundams have what a Gundam's head looks like. But you don't. I mean, if you're just a person who's never seen a robot show before, you don't know that that's what makes that one a Gundam and the other one's just mobile suits.
Yeah. They've also, there are scenes, you haven't gotten this far yet, but there's scenes where new types interact with each other, and that shit is pulled off like the last episodes of Gundam Seed in the earliest episodes of this. Like 5 minutes of the naked characters having their psychic flashback conversation.
Yep. They're not having no delay in the new type action here.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's weird because they're basically just reusing the same things from the original Gundam where, Char and Amuro would be like, ching! Oh, Char is nearby. He is? Yes.
Yep.
I can tell.
But they do basically
and it's
everyone,
the same thing. Like,
everyone
there's
does
a
it all the
girl
time.
falling outside. I can tell. I'm going to go rescue her. What? How did...
Every episode has ding, ding, ding. It's like they're just IMing each other. It's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah. But it's like they just come out with it right away. There's no hesitation. Just reusing all their old tropes hardcore.
So in the second episode, or I think it was the first episode, right as he meets Audrey Hepburn, did you notice the two movie posters that were up in the
Yes, I noticed those.
The juxtaposition of those two was unsubtle.
There's not really much that's subtle in the show at all.
Yeah.
Except for the terrible secret of space isn't subtle, it's just hidden.
Yeah, it's hidden in a stupid Laplace's box was full of love all along. Oh, and a Gundam.
Yeah.
The secret is probably...
Oh, he doesn't realize he's a murderer.
You know what they're going to find in there? The end jammer.
That's a different...
I know,
that's CE.
I know.
That's not-
Oh, what
So,
else can I say about this show?
There's not much. I think if you're a Gundam fan and you know Gundam, you should watch this because it's pretty kind of epic. If you don't know Gundam, you probably shouldn't watch this. You should watch some other Gundams. And if you become into Gundam, then you'll eventually get to this.
Yeah.
But if you've already known all the Gundam... And you know what? I'm going to say this. People are always there making suggestions like what Gundam you should read first or watch first or whatever, right? And people would say, oh, watch... I'm still a little tiny bit sick.
Little Flemmy?
Yeah. They'll be like, watch the compilation movies of the first Gundam. And it's like, all right, that's all right. That's not a bad choice.
Yep.
Watching actually the first Gundam, all right, that's basically the same thing but takes a little longer. Gundam Seed, definitely watchable if you've never
Yep.
seen any Gundams before.
Well, because Gundam Seed at least
Even
tells
though
the
that's not Universal Century,
Nope.
it's basically the same story as the first Gundam, just different characters and different
Yeah.
robots. But I'm going to say, now available in English, not completely in its entirety, but much of it, Gundam the Origin, the manga, from Vertical.
Oh, you were talking about that before.
It's basically a manga. It's weird. Usually, when a manga's turned into an anime or vice versa, at best you get a faithful adaptation that is not really necessary. I would say Gundam: The Origin, the manga, it's basically the same story as the original Gundam 78. I think it's just better. It's the same story, only better, with more stuff.
Oh.
And you can read it slowly, and you won't miss anything. And it doesn't really differ from it. It just adds more, like, in the gaps. Like, things that were possibly even just cut out of the original, or things... there's tiny details that were changed in the plot, but they don't really matter, because the novels and the anime are already different from each other in those slight kind of ways. So it's almost like it sort of just compromises between the novels and the anime in some parts. But just read that, and it comes in these awesome hardcovers that are amazing on the shelf. So yeah.
I don't know. My recommendation is still always, if you've never seen any Gundam ever, I would almost say just watch War in the Pocket, because it's kind of different from a lot of the other Gundams.
Oh, you just want to watch the short ones?
Well, because War in the Pocket is
and
really,
8th MS
really
team,
short.
8th MS Team, which is still the best Gundam ever made.
Nah. Well, yeah,
It's funny, like, the main Gundam is like, the Gundam, but the best Gundam anime ever is still 8th MS Team.
yeah, well, it's a combination of, at PAX, a couple people brought up the idea of the fun coefficient of, like, what is the amount of enjoyment per hour spent that you get from a media? And because they're so short, the average quality ends up being way high. I mean, original Gundam has a lot of points where it kind of drags for a while.
Yeah.
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 And don't watch F91. That thing was just... So, the other thing that's interesting is the character designs remind me much more of, like, Wings of Oniami's than they remind me of older Gundams. The faces and the fact that all the hair colors are natural tones. It's all browns and blacks.
I guess so.
Very non-stereotypical anime hair stuff. The hair is much more natural. So as a result, everyone would look identical if they didn't do really different faces. So the characters all have pretty unique faces.
Well, I mean, Gundam characters tend to have really unique faces.
These dial that up a little bit compared to older Gundams, but that might just be partly higher animation quality, bigger budgets.
Yeah, I mean, the animation and everything, the production quality of this in general is just... it's like they used to spend $1 million in OAVs in the 80s. It's like that. It's like, whoa, holy snap, look at them robots. Whoa.
Compare this to Sailor Moon Crystal, which has like the lowest, that has the bare minimum production qualities.
Yep.
If only Crystal had gotten this kind of budget. Yeah, this kind of love. I feel like at least the people involved in this.
If only it had been an OAV.
Yeah. Well, the people involved in this, I think, were doing it not just out of money, but out of, their like love for Gundam.
Well, I think it was like, Gundam Project, oh my God.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, because Gundam will never die. Gundam is one of those things that will continue to have things forever.
Eventually, there will be people, all the people who cared about Gundam will be dead, and there won't be enough left.
We could foster in a new generation.
How many new kids are going to watch, UC Gundams? Be they Unicorn or otherwise.
So Kazuhiro Furuhashi is the director.
Okay.
And it's notable because he's directed a ton of stuff. Like most of his credits are actually director. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the things he's directed are, in my opinion, very clinically well done, but also kind of emotionally sterile.
Like?
Get Backers.
Yep, okay.
He actually directed that. Chevalier d'Eon.
Okay, yep.
He directed that. But then there's some You're Under Arrest, the TV and the OAV, which I was
classics that we totally forgot about.
Yeah,
that even existed.
We've never reviewed that on Geeknights. I don't think
that's old school, like kind of comedy animes, the kind of anime club material.
Those are the kind of buddy comedies like Gunsmith Cats that we would just be really into back then.
It's like, oh my God, it's territory.
Yeah, and so out of all that stuff, and there's some other things I could mention. He also directed Binchotan.
Oh, the little moe cute thingy.
That was the last moe thing we ever saw before someone told us what moe was. That was before we realized.
It's like, what is this show? There's nothing but like this girl with a lump of coal doing nothing.
Yeah. Oh my God, this show's adorable. And then older, wiser fanboy was like, that's just porn for creepy people.
They care what they want to get with a girl that's like 1 inch tall. And
No, they're really into the idea that she's pure and that gets them off.
she's pure, but she has a lump of coal, which is dirty. I don't know.
Yeah, that was when cute anime was almost ruined for me forever, when I learned the terrible truth of moe.
Yotsuba exists.
Yep.
We're good.
And Bunny Drop. Don't forget Bunny Drop.
Only watch the anime. Don't read the manga.
I'm still amazed that this one guy on YouTube, when we posted that judge anime by its cover panel, he was really, really fucking mad at us for spoiling the fact that the girl and the dad have sex and get married.
I don't know exactly how far it goes, but it definitely goes. If it goes in that direction for reals, and it should not go even 1 millimeter in that direction.
Yep.
The anime ended at the correct moment.
So, Geeknights is back, and we'll be back for like 2 weeks, and then I'll be in Australia. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.